What are your thoughts on that? Hypersexuality correlating to homosexuality. Um, but then I just want to. Can I ask you one more question?
Mhm.
And it's within the topic of men and women, but maybe not necessarily relationship related, but maybe can be. So, there's all this talk now about hypersexuality in men and, a man that consistently cheats or has multiple sex partners while being in a committed relationship
Mhm.
is indicative of possible homosexuality or undercover homosexuality.
Hold on, hold
Um,
on, hold on, hold on. Make sure I'm hearing you correctly. If he's having rampant sex outside the relationship and he's cheating,
yeah,
who's he cheating with?
we don't know. Right? Like
So
I'm
just
just talking
just
well, so the I guess the examples that I'm referring to are even might even be cheating with women, right? Like, but
Mhm.
is hypersexual and actively in committed relationships when they could
Mhm.
easily not do that. But like, like there's like a thrill in that, right? Like, a lot of the conversations that I'm hearing nowadays are about this, like, are about hypersexual men, that being indicative of undercover homosexuality or unresolved or unknown sexuality within yourself. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts on that? Like on hypersexuality in a man and their inability to just be single if that's the type of stuff that they want to do, or even if they are single and sleeping with multiple women at a time. Like
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on that? Hypersexuality correlating to homosexuality.
Yeah,
And
there's
I hope I'm not offending anybody to tell you more. My mother is a lesbian. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't offend homosexual people
Mhm.
unintentionally, but just want to make that clear.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know that there's much of a and not the first thing is I don't think everything that's happening in society or in Black or Hispanic or minority cultures is a Tyler Perry film. No, not everybody that cheats, it's now all of a sudden a reflection of some suppressed thing relating to them wanting to sleep with men. You know who tends to want to sleep with men? Men that sleep with men or men that are attracted to men. Like, yeah, like right, like there's obviously men that's the case, and some of them obviously are in the down low. But is that a true reflection of all men that are cheating? Of course not, right? But when it comes to why men cheat, and believe it or not, I actually do want to do an episode on this of male and female cheating, what's typically the reasons for it, what they get out of it, and what to do about it. I think when it comes to male cheating, there is no one size fits all answer. The variety of reasons for why it could be the case. I had a recent conversation with somebody about the sheer amount of men that are in marriages, sexless marriages. I'm like, you don't think that's potentially a big reason for why a lot of
A
guys might
hundred
be single?
percent, a hundred
Right?
percent.
Just someone aside. That don't mean they're gay now. It just means that the situation that they have, for whatever reason, it's not happening, right? They could be getting sex from their partner, but for many men who, especially a lot of men where a lot of men don't have an emotional, nearly the same level of emotional attachment and connection to the act of sex. So it's easier for them to just act on lust and sexual variety. For many men, they'll even admit it. It's just something different that their body tells them that they want, and then they act on it because of a lack of sexual discipline. Some men will do it. Some men will do it out of a response of depression or trauma or PTSD, because hypersexuality, believe it or not, is actually one of the things that a lot of people, men and women, will act on and do as it relates to past trauma, especially past sexual trauma, where that wall of protection has kind of been destroyed. And for many of them, it's either an attempt to kind of take that power back, it's an attempt to feel free or alive again when that was kind of decided for them at an earlier point or age, or they just literally lack like the ability to just know how to control it and deal with it. So there's all these host of reasons, but there's one answer that you're not going to like that's 100%, I would think, even more of a factor than almost any of these other things that I just listed: sexual liberation amongst women. if women were having sex, if women were having sex with men, if women were having sex with men that were their husbands, I would envision if women were having sex with men that they were their husbands and only their husbands, it may be substantially harder for a lot of guys to cheat on the side. There's this issue when we think about male cheating as this lens of every single woman he's cheating with is an innocent victim. She didn't know anything. She didn't sign up to be a side chick. Everybody was lied to. And the reality is, ask a whole bunch of men in your life if they've ever been the side guy, if they've ever been the dude that's hanging out with the woman that's cheating on her dude. And what they'll tell you again and again and again is this often makes you more attractive to hundreds of thousands and millions of women than not. A lot of women are waiting to take her spot. A lot of women can clearly see on social media who he's with, and they'll still actively sign up and meet up and get the perks that they can on the side. If you with a man and you know he's never around on holidays, what that mean to you? So the reality is like a lot of women, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, a lot of what you're dealing with is you have a whole bunch of people on your side of the aisle who's actively engaging and participating in this stuff. You've made it readily accessible through OnlyFans. You made it readily accessible. We've gotten to a point in our culture where it's like the idea of a man not seeing other aspects, the man not being able, a man seeing so much without having to try when it comes to what's shown just on social media, just innocently. Y'all are asking them in modern men in 2025 with these devices and the way many of y'all homegirls dress, dance, twerk, act, and everything they got displayed and making it readily available for $3.99. How many men you think is going to be faithful in a market where nobody waits for anything in terms of sex anymore? I'm not saying that men are justified in it, but this is the culture that's been created by men's lack of discipline and women's decision to make to unregulate all forms of sexual access. Like sex is easier than ever before. It's going to sound bad, but isn't it easier for men to have access to sex and children than ever before?
No, you're not wrong. And you said but where you were wrong was where you said that I wasn't gonna like your answer. And
Oh.
your answer, I do like your answer because it's true, even though
Mhm.
I still, you know, wear certain clothing that could be deemed, tempting and all the things. I still agree with you because two things can be true. So just want to say that.
Nah, I appreciate and I agree. Like, of course, it's definitely on each individual person that does something wrong. It's been wrong on me when I've done things in the past and stepped out of relationships. It was on me at the end of the day, and regardless of what my ex was or wasn't doing, it was still my choice to decide to stay and to decide to step out. So at the end, like it's very much still a volitional decision. If and I'll give you an example, if a woman decides for the next 3 to 6 months, I'm just flat out not going to have sex with him at all. I can stay the entire time. I can leave. I can talk and have a conversation about what our agreement is going to be if I want to get my needs met elsewhere. Um, but in all those scenarios, I didn't have to actively sneak behind her back and do something. I think the category, I do think that we have to separate both actions of what I'm about to say in terms of cheating are true, but I think the ramifications for why it is they could be cheating could be different. Men that are in relationships that are dating relationships are not married and then actively choose to cheat, 100% there isn't a single solitary thing that you could point to justify why he is with a woman who he's not in a legal relationship with and is still actively choosing to stay and cheat on her. He's just flat out wrong, right? With men that are married, people would say, well, that's arguably worse. And it is. But in an environment and market where men that leave, they can reap a whole host of negative consequences and side effects for leaving, especially if they have children.
Right. Cheaper to keep her.
So if you're in a situation like that where you're married and with children and she's not having sex with you, or you have to constantly beg and plead her to finally get her to want to do it. I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but I can understand how a guy that feels like, wow, if I leave this person who doesn't like me, doesn't love me, and doesn't pursue me anymore, I can destroy everything in my life. I can lose access to my kids. I might have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to try to fight to just be able to see them half the time, even though I'm one of the two parents. I could potentially get destroyed in family court in terms of child support and or alimony. And if alimony is not an option, how high can they jack up child support? They might dip into my retirement accounts or my investment accounts to pull from certain things. So his lens when he's unhappy and he can't just up and leave like the boyfriend can. This is where some men that feel stuck in that way will often resort to getting their needs met on the outside. Doesn't make it right, doesn't make it justified, but you can see how those two types of men, both wrong, but both clearly have varying reasons for how they ended up at the same point. So I do look at them differently. They're both wrong, but I do look at the man who has more to lose by leaving and being quote unquote stuck in a situation. I'm always going to put the knock on him in the sense of just tell me that she didn't show these type of signs earlier on before you gave her a ring.